Hello, lovely people. Welcome back to another book chat. I'm trying to get Little Furry Muse to be friendly, but she's not friendly. That's just not her nature. um, okay, so a slightly early book chat this month. Reason being that I am away for all of December. And I'm going to have some internet and sometimes not internet. And if you follow me on social media, you'll be able to keep up with where I am. Otherwise, everything's going to kind of tick away as per normal on the blog. The keener-eyed among you may notice there are a couple of reruns, which my official excuse is that I've already said all I need to say about Christmas and New Year and that sort of thing. And the more possibly truthful reason is that I haven't been organised enough to write a whole bunch of new posts. So there. Okay, so I will still be popping in as much as I can, and I will be answering comments and chatting on social media and everything whenever I've got internet, but that won't be all the time. But if you would like to see photos of Tonga and of a New Zealand Christmas, then yes, go follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And you know how to find me. It's there at the top of the page if you're on the blog. So first things, just because I haven't showed off enough, I have actually gone and popped into some of the indie bookshops in the area. So if you're in Yorkshire, if you go to the Stripy Badger in Grassington, they are now stocking the Beaufort scales. You can also go to Limestone Books in Sheffield, and they also have a couple. And yes, so if you'd like to support a local indie bookshop and me, that's where you can go for your Christmas presents. So there we go. You can get the whole collection, and obviously don't forget that You'll Be Sorry is the Christmas one if you're looking for Christmas presents. Hint, hint. And if you're on ebook and you haven't read You'll Be Sorry yet, I am going to be discounting it in December. So there we go. That's my Christmas present. Right. So what have I read this month? I only did the last one, I think, about 3 weeks ago or something. At least I should be able to remember what I read. You know, that makes a change. So the first one I read this month was Stephen King, Rose Madder. This was a reread for me. So I read Rose Madder probably when I was in my early 20s or something like that. Maybe even my teens. I'm not sure, actually. I don't even know when it was published. I might be making myself sound far too young there. 95. Yeah, so yes, it could have been my teens, just. Anyway, I remember loving it. When I was teens, 20s, I read pretty much exclusively horror if I could get my hands on it, and Stephen King was my favourite. He's still one of my favourite authors. I know he doesn't suit everyone, but I always enjoy his style. He has great characters. I don't mind the fact that nobody gets too editing happy with him and he just gets to ramble, because I find his writing that engaging. I don't mind that sort of thing. But what was really interesting rereading this now, particularly in light of the last couple of years with Me Too and a lot more awareness of violence against women, it was a much different read. And I think also just, you know, as a teen, early 20s, you kind of think you're pretty invincible. So I don't think I identified as much with Rosie as I did this time around. And that made it a much more, not necessarily frightening, but very unsettling read. Unsettling, I think, is the right word. It definitely made me uneasy. It was still a great read. I still enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the first time round, which that's just a thing as you get older, isn't it? And as you read more and more, you become less and less forgiving. But it was still a great read. But definitely, a lot more unsettling for me this time round, which I found quite interesting. Interesting book. Okay, so that was the first one. Second one I read, The Tower, the Zoo and the Tortoise by Julia Stuart. I don't know if you can see that cover. I'm going to try to hold it up really close so that you can see the absolutely beautiful giraffe poking her head out of the Tower of London. And there's a raven and a beefeater and the tortoise. The tortoise's name is Mrs. Cook, and she is a Galapagos tortoise. I don't think there's any other cool animals on the front, is there? Okay, so this I picked up in a secondhand bookshop because it just sounded intriguing. It just said it was a story about one of the beefeaters that still lives in the Tower of London, where there used to be a menagerie, and there now no longer is. And the story is essentially, you know, the menagerie gets reinstated in the Tower of London, and this one poor beefeater, Balthazar Jones, has to take care of it. And that side, that aspect of the story, which initially you think is going to be the whole thing, is funny and ridiculous and full of all the complete mishaps that you can imagine happening with this menagerie getting moved to the Tower of London. But there's much more underneath that, and it's partly a love story, and it's partly a story about grief and dealing with loss of the most just traumatic kind. And it was beautiful. It was never a book that dragged me down. It was very melancholy in places. The characters were wonderfully drawn. You just loved them. There was so much quirkiness in there as well. Just so many very, very odd things, like I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. Hebe Jones, I'm not sure. She works in the Lost Property Office in the London Underground, and they've got like this magician's case, you know, where they saw the lovely assistant in half, and so they've got this, and it's lived in the office for ages. Whenever she needs a break, she just goes and lies in the case, and there's just all these sort of random little just lovely things through it, but at its heart it is just a really beautiful story about love and loss and dealing with grief, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Julia Stuart, also full of lots of really interesting little tidbits about the history of the tower. No idea if they're true or not, no idea, haven't fact checked any of them. They're too lovely. I'm just like, yeah, I'll just believe them because they're awesome. There we go. So and this one I'm still reading because I actually leave. Actually, by the time this video goes up, I will already have left. I will be in the air somewhere, probably almost to New Zealand, hopefully, by that stage. It's a really long trip. I leave on Tuesday night, and I get to Tonga. My final destination is Tonga this time. Not final destination, that sounds awful. Oh no, now I'm thinking of the movies. I am ending up in Tonga on Friday night. Awesome. Yeah, so it's going to be a really long trip. So by the time you see this, I will be on the way. So what, for me, when I'm going to be leaving, I don't want to leave in the middle of a book, and I also don't want to carry any books with me because I have got enough luggage. So, well, I don't actually have that very much luggage, but I don't want to have very much luggage. So I've been reading some short stories. If you know Tove Jansson, you probably know The Moomin Trolls, which are wonderful, beautiful, magical books, very melancholy, about friendship, love, and just the challenges of being a very small creature in a very big world. And they're beautiful and they're wonderful. I've only just discovered Tove Jansson's adult books, and I will pop a link here because I'm pretty sure I did a video on the summer book, which I read last year. I think I did a video on it. If there is, I'll link it below anyway. And this is the winter book, and this is all short stories. So I'm only partway through it at the moment, but it's beautiful. She has the same just lovely, engaging style. I mean, the only thing I would say is, so far on the stories I've read, I want more. I don't want just a short story. I would love to read the whole thing, whether it was a whole collection of short stories, because these are a selection that have been taken from various works, or whether she wrote a novel. It's, yeah, more. I just want more. Okay, so that's what I'm reading at the moment. I'm sure at the end of December I will have a ridiculously long video because basically I get to the airport and I start reading and I don't stop till I get off at the other end because I have a lot of trouble sleeping on planes. So I just arrive very jet lagged, but having read lots and lots of books. That's, you know, it's a toss up. I don't mind. So let me know what you've been reading this month, what you've enjoyed, what's a reread that you've come back to years later and had completely different feelings about. I'd be really interested to know about that. And of course, don't forget, go to the Stripy Badger in Grassington and get yourself some Beaufort books. And yeah, that's all for this time. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Yes, bye.